We have lots of great questions from our viewers.
All right, please proceed.
All right. Can you comment on the recent video that was released of the pyramid-shaped UFO films, UFOs?
What we will say at this time, simply again, is this is another phase, another step in the understanding of the beginning of disclosure, where certain authoritative institutions are now willing to release the information, to validate the information. One must still be aware that there may be other purposes they have in mind for the reason for releasing this information. So one must be aware that there are agendas behind some of this, even though the information and the recordings are authentic. They may have other reasons for doing so. So all we would simply suggest is that you all remember that no matter what is said to you, as disclosure continues to unfold, that we are here to assist you, that we are here to support you, and that we love you unconditionally. And allow yourself to remain balanced and in your center with regard to your understanding of the vibration that is necessary for true open contact to occur.
Okay, thank you. How can we steer clear of the path of the grays? If the world is splitting and many people are going down that path, how do we know if we are still on the path that the grays took or we're on a different path?
Some will remain on the path that will be similar to what the grays chose to experience, but others will allow themselves to go a different path. This again is the reason why we share with you the information that we do, and in particular, the idea of the formula of acting on your passion. Because when you do follow the formula as precisely as you can, you raise your frequency. And when you raise your frequency, as we have said many times, you make yourself a better receiver, a better antenna for higher frequency information, communication, contact, and inspiration. And that alone will navigate you in the direction that is different than what the grays experienced.
Thank you. You have a symbiotic relationship with animals and plants on your planet.
Yes.
On Earth, billions of animals are enslaved and exploited and suffer painful lives and deaths.
Yes.
Now, the person is saying, I'm a vegan, but what else can we do? And how can humanity be inspired to be more loving towards animals?
Again, by raising your frequency, you will actually start to be able to perceive, if you are willing, that there is the capability of communication with all forms of life on your planet. And as that communication becomes apparent, then you can start to realize that you are dealing with intelligent beings of a different sort. You can form a different kind of understanding and relationship with them. But the idea also is to act in whatever way you can in a positive manner to change the situations that you have described, so that you can explain perhaps the idea that you will actually experience a greater benefit by going back into a natural format of your relationship to all forms of life on your planet. So the idea again is to always take actual actions on your planet to change these things, to encourage others to change them in ways that are more beneficial to all concerned. But the actions are important. It's not about asking what other people can do, but what you can do.
And for someone being a vegan, is that demonstrating a different kind of relationship with animals? But you, at the same time, you can't really insist that people become vegetarian or vegan.
Correct. But you can educate to the idea of the relationship that you can have with animals. There are many, many examples already on your planet of circumstances and situations that are very clear and very apparent about the ability of humans and animals to communicate with one another in a variety of ways. So one approach might be to compile that information of such cases where they exist and create a demonstration of these things that may allow people to at least have the option to understand that such things are possible and allow them to make the choice to develop a different kind of relationship with animals. So the more examples of communication that already occurs between humans and animals that exists on your planet can be shown to others, the more it might be possible or probable that others will suddenly realize that they are simply communicating with a different form of intelligence, and that can change the relationship if, again, they so desire. But it's not something that you can force. It's not something you can insist upon.
And when animals choose to be incarnated here, or we bring them into our reality through our own consciousness and our own creation, it's hard to understand why a being would be willing to incarnate in an environment where they would be subjected to such treatment.
Well, again, we have talked about this concept and principle many, many times. Sometimes, because again, it is understood that physical reality is temporary and not really real in the classic sense, consciousness of animals may be willing to allow themselves to experience these things in order to bring more awareness to the human population, so that you can realize that you are getting to a point where you no longer prefer such things. And the more animals that choose to allow themselves to experience that, the more likely it is that you will start to realize that's not what you prefer, that you will be empathic toward them and compassionate toward them because of the suffering they have endured. And therefore, they might be willing to endure that temporarily, because in the long run, you might finally realize that you can have a different relationship with them and not treat them that way.
So, on the topic of polarization, the idea of experiencing negative and positive, is there at any point where you stop experiencing the negative polarity? And
yes, it will always be available to you. You will become more aware of it, but you won't be experiencing it because you'll be choosing what you prefer without invalidating what you don't prefer. You will be choosing from a balanced state. And therefore, like our civilization, we no longer experience the negative, but we are keenly aware that it is always there as a choice. As we sometimes use the analogy of the yin-yang symbol, one side seems predominantly white, one side seems predominantly black, but in each there is always a dot of the opposite color, which means you always have the ability to access the opposite of what you've chosen, but you don't necessarily have to choose it. And you don't necessarily have to invalidate what you're not choosing. Just come from a balanced point of view.
so, on like third density Earth, you are keenly aware of the suffering that is experienced and the negative polarity that exists here.
Well, if you
But
choose to be aware of it, yes. There are many people in third density that choose not to be aware of it, choose to
right.
ignore it, choose to deny it. However, in fourth density reality, the denial is much more challenging, because there are things that are more obvious to you when you come from a fourth density physical level of perspective, and you can start to really feel the links between you, and that anything that you consider to be someone else, another animal, another human, another tree, whatever it is, you start to feel the connection and start to see the reflection that it is simply, in a sense, another version of you, another version of all that is, that you are also a reflection of. So from fourth density level reality, I'll say it's much more challenging to create that sense of separation or disconnection. But in third density, yes, that's what you've been experiencing.
And in fourth density, then the challenge becomes becoming aware of the negativity and the suffering,
Yes.
and at the same time maintaining the higher frequency state by interpreting what you're seeing in a new way. Is that
Yes. Just being aware doesn't make it in any way, shape, or form difficult to be in the state that you prefer to be in if you don't label it as difficult to do so.
and where does that differ from being uncaring because you're not being affected by the suffering that's existing?
Again, that is making a linkage that doesn't need to be made, as if going into a state of balance or a state of compassion means that you're no longer a caring person. That kind of definition doesn't need to be created.
Okay. So like I've noticed that if I'm with redwood trees,
Yes.
and then suddenly images or thoughts of other trees being cut down, old trees dying, etc., comes into my consciousness, that will immediately drop my frequency. Yes?
No, it won't.
It won't.
No, of course not.
Only if I have a negative reaction to it.
Of course. You're in total control of your frequency, no matter what it is you're observing. So if you're coming from a level of understanding and compassion and seeing the bigger picture and actually taking the actions that can allow such things to be changed on your planet, then you don't have to necessarily experience a lowering of a frequency just because you become aware of a situation you don't prefer.
So what that actually reflects is the idea that there's still baggage associated or beliefs associated with what it means to be caring, and
Yes.
so there's a new way to approach those ideas.
Yes. Compassion is caring, but compassion is also a more balanced state that allows you to do something about what you're perceiving rather than simply feeling victimized by it and adding to the negative energy that you're perceiving.
Right. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
In the next 80 years, what kind of technological advancements do you believe we will see in this timing?
Most likely, as we read the energy that exists at the present, since there's no such thing as a prediction of the future, because there are many probabilities, but the highest probabilities that we perceive in your energy right now is that within the idea of 80 orbits, you will definitely experience the idea of what you call free energy devices. You will definitely experience the idea of open contact with extraterrestrial beings, such as our civilization, which means you will most likely experience the idea of space travel in a very different way. And you will have more knowledge about your own history. You will have a different understanding of your path and your evolution. And your eyes will be open to many different things you are unaware of at this moment with regard to your connection to the cosmos, to other beings within it. And also you will find that it will be very likely that within 80 years, you'll also be able to communicate much more easily in a variety of ways with what you call the spirits of the dead.
Well, that leads to the next question, which is, are ghosts real? And can they attach to people and suck their energy? And is there a way that we can interact with ghosts in a positive, loving way?
Yes, they are real because they're just people. They're just people on a different frequency level. They have changed their frequency into a non-physical presentation. So yes, they're real. Now, that doesn't mean that every situation that people think is a ghost, because there are many other things that can sort of mimic that effect, including the idea of situations and circumstances and activities being recorded, so to speak, in the fabric of space-time that can be triggered to sort of play back under certain circumstances that aren't necessarily indicative of something happening, quote unquote, live in real time. So sometimes a space-time recording can actually seem to be a ghost, but it is nothing more than the idea of a recording of an incident that may have already happened, etched into the fabric of space-time. Also, something else that can be confused for a ghost is the idea that as your senses expand, you may be more capable of experiencing people in parallel realities. And therefore, they may fade in and may fade out. And you may think it's a ghost of someone who's connected to your particular timeline, but it may be that you're actually temporarily viewing someone in a completely different parallel reality who may or may not even be aware of you with your ability to perceive them. But yes, when people pass into spirit, they can, if their vibration is lowered enough for whatever reason, appear to your senses within the range of your ability to perceive them, and you would perceive them in a sense as a ghost. Now, sometimes ghosts or spirits can appear to be very transparent, very ephemeral. They can come and go very quickly. And sometimes, depending on the circumstance and the spirit's ability, they can actually appear to be a solid person that you can't even necessarily tell is a ghost until suddenly they disappear in front of your eyes. Now, the idea is that for the most part, with a few exceptions, you will find that most ghostly encounters or spirit encounters are relatively benign, and that anything that may seem to be in any way, shape, or form negative is usually just the product of a misunderstanding. Those spirits who may maintain a vibration very close to physical reality may do so because they have unfinished business. They may be attempting to get a message across to someone still living, and they can experience to some degree the idea of an emotional range and even frustration, maybe even anger. So sometimes it's really more like dealing with a person who simply has an issue, who simply has something they cannot solve. They can be helped to solve that if people become more sensitive to the fact that they are talking to people in a different state of being, and can perhaps engage them in conversations where they seek to understand what it is that the ghost may actually be desiring, what they need to say. It's not about trying to send them into the light, because they may not need to go yet. But the idea is, like anyone, form a relationship and attempt to understand what it is they need and provide what they need if you possibly can. That many times will settle them out, smooth them out, and then they may be willing to move on to the next level of spirit. Now, the idea is that, again, yes, sometimes there may be entities that are very, very upset and very angry and may do mischievous and semi-malevolent things. They can't in any way, shape, or form actually, quote unquote, attach themselves to you per se. But you can certainly start to match their vibration of upsetness or anger, and that can be your own negative energy then that can amplify that kind of a relationship in much the same way that if you start an argument with someone who's living, you will have what you would experience to be a very frustrating, tense, or negative experience with them in your relationship. So in that sense, a ghost is not really that much different. So the idea is that, yes, now and then there may be an entity, a ghost, that is having a very, very challenging time, and they may be a little off kilter, and they may do negative things. But again, it's usually the product of something that is unsatisfied, something that is left undone, something that is left unsaid, something that they don't understand, because sometimes ghosts don't even know that they're ghosts. Depending on how a person may transition into spirit, sometimes they may not even know that they're dead and may be very confused about why people are no longer paying attention to them, why things have changed in the house that they lived in. So sometimes just explaining what's going on to them can actually smooth them out, settle them out, and help them understand what's happening so they don't have to be upset with it. This is what we will say about this subject at this particular moment.
Okay. It is kind of interesting how Sixth Sense, the movie, really started to address what you're talking about.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that is reflective of our media reflecting to us information that we've already really accessed,
Yes.
but haven't accepted broadly.
Yes.
Um,
Just remember this.
yes.
Ghosts are people too.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This person is talking about, oh, here's one question. What does COVID represent vibrationally?
It represents a course correction. It represents the opportunity to recognize when you may have been making choices that are not necessarily in alignment with who you prefer to be in the world you prefer to experience. And therefore, it is a reflection vibrationally, a reaction vibrationally to the idea that there may need to be some responsibility taken for choices made that are not in alignment with who you prefer to be. And it is an opportunity for course correction. This is what the idea of viruses and bacteria and microbes and things like that, in general, though there may be some specificity to different kinds, in general, it exists in your physical reality as a course correcting mechanism to let you know when you may be out of balance. Because if you are in balance, those particular entities can't really cause any particular kind of harm to you. But when you are out of balance, they can, because they will amplify and feed off of the idea of the negative energy and take advantage of the state of being you have created that allows them to proliferate and interact with you in a way that is, shall we say, not necessarily always pleasant.
And at the same time, isn't part of their purpose it reflecting the temporary nature of physical reality, because they are the actual
Yes, partly.
mechanisms that remove people from physical reality?
Partly, yes. It depends on the person and their relationship to the idea of what they're experiencing, of course. But in general, yes, it's part of the idea that one of the clues you have that physical reality isn't real is that it actually does deteriorate. Because real reality doesn't deteriorate. Physical reality is just a dream, and therefore it can, in a sense, fade away.
So fascinating. Now, for those who really want to follow their passion, but are afraid to live that because they're concerned that people won't like them, or that other people will try to bring them down for pursuing that path, what would you say to that?
Well, what we have always said, anytime those kinds of feelings come up when you're moving in the direction of your passion, realize that that's the purpose of that moment, is to recognize that you have a belief that is generating those feelings. So don't rush past it. Don't ignore it. Don't suppress it. Stay with it. Acknowledge the feeling. You have to own it in order to change it. And by changing it, we mean you have to get in touch with the belief system within you that would generate that kind of a feeling, because you can't have a feeling one way or the other until you have a belief one way or the other. So use that moment when it comes up, because that's part of the formula, the reflective mirror that reveals to you anything that's out of alignment with your passion. To discover what that is actually part of your passion, because without discovering it, without identifying it, you can't really let it go. So the idea is that when that comes up, those ideas, oh, people won't like me, or they will think I'm crazy, or it will never work, or I'm not worthy, and I'm not deserving, and all of that, stop right there, because that idea, that issue, is the most important thing you could possibly deal with at that moment. So get in touch, find out what you would have to believe is true about yourself in that circumstance in order to feel or believe the way you do. Analyze it, understand it, really pay attention to what it's telling you, and then look around at the world and see that there are many other people doing things that you would prefer to do. And if they can do them and you can see them doing that without the same challenges you're having, then why not you too? Because when you really understand what the negative belief, the fear-based belief is saying to you, and you compare that to what you see other people are capable of doing that you would also prefer to do, then what the belief is telling you would make no sense anymore. Because why should you be different? Why should you not have the capability of being able to be like those people who are setting an example that you can be that way too? So as soon as the belief makes no sense anymore, it'll dissolve, it'll fade, it'll go away. You don't hold on to things that don't make sense. But you may have other beliefs within you that are making it appear to make sense. You have to find out what those beliefs are too, and really let them go. It may attempt to make you believe that something bad will happen if you move forward, but that's not a fact. It's just a point of view.
And in listening to you share information with us about the formula, it may seem like it's very simple. And at the same time, we've noticed over the last number of years that you've been bringing this information to us, that it really does require a deeper process to be able to do it fully and precisely.
It requires a deeper understanding. Whatever the process is you believe you need to develop that understanding is up to you and can change from individual to individual. So it's not an absolute given that it requires a deeper process, but it does require a deeper understanding so that you can act on all aspects of the formula more precisely. It's precision and understanding that is required. But when you do understand it more thoroughly and you act on the formula more precisely without adding anything to it or taking anything away from it, you will see that it is absolutely sufficient to allow you to move forward in the way that works for you. That's why we deliver it to you. The idea simply is, once again, nothing more than a description of how you actually create your physical reality experience. So it is literally an instruction manual being delivered to you for how reality works. Just follow the instructions. When you get an instruction manual to operate a piece of machinery, there's nothing in the instruction manual that says you should leave an instruction out or that you should add additional instructions to it. The instructions are there in the way they have been designed to allow the machine to operate to your advantage. Just follow the instructions. That's all you have to do. So all it really takes, by whatever process you deem is necessary, is a clear and deep and precise understanding of what the instructions are telling you. And that's why we have ongoing conversations to go through whatever process is necessary that people believe is necessary for them to develop a clearer understanding of what we mean when we say all you need to do is be precise. And we're happy to do that. But there are no more instructions. It is actually very simple. One of the things, of course, that may involve people in a certain kind of process is understanding why they believe it has to be more difficult than it is. So if that process is necessary, we are happy to engage you in that process as well, to realize that it is actually very, very simple.
And also, I've noticed that as an individual changes and incorporates these new beliefs into their belief system, every time they hear you talking about that, they have the opportunity to have a greater grasp and employ greater precision in being able to express it.
Yes.
Because it's the precision of expressing it that takes you to higher and higher vibrational states.
Yes, it's about streamlining and not, shall we say, clouding it up with superfluous ideas or perspectives. Then you allow it to work as efficiently as it is designed to work.
So thank you. These are some ET questions.
Oh, all right.
Was Steven Spielberg subconsciously describing the blue men ETs when he created the movie Avatar? And are there aspects of the movie that accurately reflect the reality of the blue men?
Well, first of all, Steven Spielberg didn't create Avatar. James Cameron did.
Okay.
The idea is, no, not exactly. It's kind of an amalgamation in those characters of a variety of things that have to do with connections to nature. The blue men idea is mixed in there to some degree unconsciously, but the idea really isn't as representative of the blue men as you might think. They're very different than that in a lot of ways. But where there is a similar crossover is the idea of the connection to nature, but that has many other interpretations and connections with regard to extraterrestrial consciousness as well. So it's kind of a synthesis or an amalgamation of many different kinds of things. It isn't really just about the idea of the blue men.
Well, would you say that the blue men are the seventh hybrid race?
No, they're very different.
Okay. And from the time of the initial hybridization with Homo erectus,
Yes.
how much time has passed until your current civilization?
Giving you a timeline for that is a little bit tricky because, again, remember that our civilization exists in a parallel reality that's on a different frequency than yours. And therefore, let's say our civilization has experienced, from our perspective, about 10,000 years of civilization. And we are about 3,000 years ahead of you, technologically speaking. So the idea of the Anunnaki and the creation of Homo sapiens, you're looking at something between or around about 300,000 of your years ago. So we are, in that sense, relatively recent by comparing the two timelines. But nevertheless, that's the best we can do in overlapping the timelines for you.
And how did your civilization contribute to the creation of the seventh hybrid race?
Well, we play our part genetically, as you will play your part genetically, as all the hybrid races that have been created play their part genetically in the overall mix. Because remember, we contain many different kinds of genetic material. And as the hybrids were refined all the way to the Yael and then the Shalanaya, which are the children which will come to live among you eventually, you will find that the genetic templates that have been created that will allow the hybrids to mix with Homo sapiens on your planet that are already also hybridized in certain ways will contain the energy template and the genetic expression that is necessary for eventually all of that genetic material to produce the seventh hybrid race, which will automatically be a blending of all of the other hybrids, including you, all of you.
Will there be a lot of resistance on Earth to first the idea that we were genetically created by the Anunnaki?
There will be some. There will be some. But again, remember, you're talking about different Earths, because again, as they continue to split, or more precisely, as you become more aware of the existence of parallel versions of Earth and navigate yourself to the one that is more reflective of what you prefer, there will be those that will navigate themselves to the versions who won't necessarily accept that idea or be comfortable with it. But that's their path, not necessarily yours, if you are open to the idea that this is part of the evolution of the Earth that you prefer. But you have to make that decision for yourselves.
Are there any physical monuments currently on Earth that are symbols for the Anunnaki?
Yes, some of the ancient ruins in certain places, such as Baalbek, such as some very ancient Mayan and Aztec sites, such as places like that, that seem, in your estimation, a little bit beyond the technology of the time that you attribute to those people who lived back then, do have either direct connection or offshoot connection to some of the ancient Anu and their bases, their headquarters on Earth.
And how did they accomplish this genetic hybridization process? Is there anything you can share with us to help us understand that a little more clearly?
Well, it's not dissimilar to what your scientists now begin to understand about how to do genetic splicing. There are other techniques they may have had that are a little bit different or more advanced than what you're experiencing right now, but it's not that dissimilar from what your scientists already understand about genetic splicing and genetic manipulation.
How did they hide that information that was going on
Hide
from
it from whom?
the Anunnaki who would not support that kind of behavior?
Well, remember that they had traveled a very far distance. Communication between the Anunnaki on Earth and the Anunnaki back on their homeworld was not necessarily frequent. Therefore, they simply avoided filling in their reports, so to speak, in a way that would allow them to do what they needed to do.
So they were not telepathic then with their
No.
own civilization.
No, not in that way.
Is Göbekli Tepe an Atlantean remnant? And can you tell us about Göbekli Tepe?
Tepe. To some degree, yes, it is an Atlantean remnant, although it is also part and parcel of something else we cannot discuss. But generally speaking, it was a training center. The idea of creating knowledge and awareness of certain attributes within humanity to allow them to experience things like telepathy, like astral projection more easily. In a sense, the creation of what you might call a fourth density being began back then as a project. And Göbekli Tepe was a part of that training.
Okay, thank you. And when were the pyramids of Giza built? How long did it take to build them, and what purpose did they serve?
They were constructed about 10,500 of your years ago, the ancient ones, the old ones, not the more recent ones. that don't exhibit the same kind of precision. And these were constructed primarily as a way of continuing Atlantean science, of understanding how to preserve that information because of the destruction caused by cometary impacts on your planet. They knew that the preservation of the information had to be created in a way that wouldn't be destroyed should such a thing happen again. So building large stone monuments was one of the ways to preserve that information as long as possible, so that by the time humanity recovered from certain disasters, they would still have access to that information. And the Great Pyramid at Giza was also again used as an amplification medium for the creation of making it easier for astral projection and the accessing of higher level information by that methodology, and several other things.
Okay, thank you.
It took about 100 of your years to construct.
So it was multiple generations on the project.
Yes, because it was deemed to be that important. It had to be that precise. It had to be that preservable, because the priests knew that it would be a long time before humanity recovered to the point where they would understand, or at least begin to understand, the information contained within it.
When the ancient people saw the extraterrestrials and they thought they were gods, did they look different to them? Like, what were they seeing? Do you know?
Well, the Anunnaki were much taller than you are. 8 or 9 feet was not uncommon. Their skin was tinted very slightly blue, and so obviously they appeared to be very different. Plus, of course, they looked a lot more like you do now in the sense of Homo sapien than they did look to Homo erectus. So they did appear to be extremely different beings from what Homo erectus was used to looking at.
And did they represent themselves as coming from the stars or the heavens? And that's part of why they were misconstrued
Yes.
as being gods.
Yes. Because again, they simply represented where they came from. And of course, in the nature of the ones that visited your planet over time, well, let's just say they found the story to be useful for the control that they needed to impress upon the newly created Homo sapiens in order to get them to do what they needed them to do.
And was that then mimicked in the creation of some religious teachings and things
Yes.
like that in general?
If the Anunnaki had not done what they did, it's highly likely you would not have any religious institutions at all today. You would simply have a more direct spirituality, as many indigenous cultures have developed.
So, and again, part of that hybridization process was what resulted in the humans being limited and perhaps sort of addicted to power or control. Is that?
Well, they were mimicking their gods.
Oh.
So the idea that the gods, so to speak, the extraterrestrials, exhibited and exercised the idea of power and control. And therefore, because of the way that they introduced their genetic material and impressed upon Homo sapien in vibrational resonance, the idea of being, as you say in your literature, made in the image of God, then of course that created a cycle vibrationally, resonantly within humanity of mimicking and mirroring the gods, the extraterrestrials who exhibited those traits.
Such a fascinating story, and certainly has brought a lot of interest from others in the cosmos.
Yes, it has.
To watch this unfold, yes.
Yes.
Can you explain to us a little bit about the difference between dimensions and densities?
Yes. As we have said, densities are kind of like states within a country, and dimensions are kind of like different countries. So vibrationally speaking, you are going from third density, a certain resonant vibrational state of being, within the fourth dimension, 3 of space, 1 of time, and you're shifting from third density to a higher frequency of physical reality called fourth density, but still a physical expression. But when you go into fifth density, you'll actually be going into a fifth dimension. You're actually now crossing the border from one country to another, of going from physical to non-physical reality. So when people talk about the idea of becoming fifth dimensional and yet still remaining physical, they're a little bit confused about the idea of what that means. You can certainly tap into fifth density energy, and you can apply it in whatever way fourth density will allow you to translate that. But you don't become a fifth density physical being. And when you're fifth density, you're a spirit. So the idea is to understand the difference between levels of resonance and states of being within a dimension, and also the difference between one dimension and another, which can actually change your form completely, your expression completely. Whereas from third to fourth density, you can still recognize yourself as having a physical expression in a classic physical sense, even though you may be operating from a higher vibration and have more expanded senses, you would still consider yourself to be a physical being. Our civilization has evolved to the point now where we are transitioning from physical to non-physical reality. And that's why we are quasi-physical and sort of straddle the energy states of fourth and fifth density, meaning the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension, which is why we can exhibit traits of physical beings and traits of spirits simultaneously. But we still have a physical component. We are not fully fifth dimensional, fifth density.
So like what would first and second density look like?
That may be challenging to describe. Now, you have a kind of analogous representation to some degree in a story on your planet called Flatland, where the beings are less than three-dimensional, so to speak, where they don't understand the concept of height or depth, where the density is very, very low, vibrationally speaking, and they cannot necessarily imagine the idea of an up or a down. They can only imagine the idea of a forward, a back, a left, and a right. So they're very compressed into a very specific kind of densified focus of their existence of reality, their experience of reality. And it's sort of similar to the idea of how many people in your reality, in the third dimension, the fourth dimension, so to speak, can't necessarily understand the perspective of a fifth dimensional spirit being who can move through walls, see through walls, and all those sorts of things because of their particular perspective. So it's sort of a similar analogy to what you're not capable of perceiving, because you can't necessarily right now completely stretch your senses beyond the realm of fourth density as a physical being. Although to some degree you can exhibit some of that. And to some degree, a lower density being can imagine certain things that would be considered a philosophical point of view, but they're not really experiencing those things directly as they would if they were actually projecting their consciousness into a higher dimension. Did that make sense?
To some degree, as much as my mind can stretch to understand.
Yes. You can have just as much of a challenge imagining lower densities as you can imagining higher ones.
Is there a single clock for the whole universe, much like we have atomic clocks on Earth?
Well, if you're talking about the physical universe, then yes, it's what your scientists refer to as the Planck scale, Planck time. Because again, we have said that this is the actual tick of the clock of physical reality. This is what determines how many billions of times per second you are actually shifting. It's 10 to the 43rd. That's how many ticks of the clock there are in every second. 10 to the power of 43. That's the Planck scale. That's Planck time. That's the tick of the clock of the physical universe.
Fascinating. Let's see. What's the difference between the higher mind, the soul, and spirit guides?
All right. The soul, as we have said, is kind of like an overarching identity. And if it decides or chooses to have what you would call a physical experience, a portion of the soul, the non-physical portion, remains as the higher mind, and another portion is focused into what you experience as the physical mind. The physical mind has the physical experience, which feeds back into the higher mind and into the soul that gathers that information and that energy and creates a more, shall we say, specific version of itself called spirit, because a spirit is specifically connected to a particular personal identity's physical experience. But that feeds back into the greater soul, who then contains that experience of that physical reality experience of the physical mind, having generated a kind of spirit representation of that experience in physical reality. So a soul, as we have often said poetically, is like unfired clay, and the spirit is like the ceramic that has been fired based on a specific physical experience. Spirit guides are those that simply are in spirit and remain in spirit while you have a physical experience, and are there to help guide you along with the higher mind. So your higher mind is kind of like your personal spirit guide, but it's a portion of your own soul, whereas spirit guides are expressions of perhaps a different identity, a different individual who simply isn't, in your experience, incarnate at that moment, and who is willing to help you along with your higher mind, guide you in physical life. Is that explaining it clearly enough?
Yes, that's fascinating. When we see others, as you've explained, our reality is a reflective reality.
Yes.
And so how do we interpret another person's expressions and their behavior, because we're actually seeing a reflection of our own consciousness?
Yes, but you're picking up on the vibrations that they're giving off, and you are translating them as best as you possibly can, or at least in the most relevant way, according to your own belief systems, about what you need to represent them by. So you're creating a simulation of them, picking up on their vibrational energy and creating a version of them that meets your particular filters or needs or belief systems about exactly how you need to see them and how you need to interact with them in the mutually agreed upon third reality that you are creating together.
So in order not to take responsibility for another person's negative behavior,
Yes.
while at the same time realizing that you are receiving a reflective experience.
Yes, but again, as we have said, it's not always a one-to-one reflection. There can be a variety of different degrees of reflection based on what it is you need to understand out of the relationship and experience, and what they need to understand out of the relationship and the experience. So it's not just a one-to-one reflection, philosophically speaking.
So the idea of going into a belief system where, oh, well, this is happening and that's happening, so it must mean that I'm this or that, it doesn't really serve you to interpret what you're experiencing that way.
Well, we're
Is that
not saying you
correct?
can't interpret it, but what we're saying is you have to be very clear about what the interpretation is, because you can misinterpret it based on your belief systems.
Right,
So
because
the
that's where,
clearer you are, the clearer the interpretation will be about what it is that you need to get out of it, what it is they need to get out of it, and what you are responsible to them for without being responsible for them.
so it's a fine line between letting your negative beliefs come in a sense, undermine your self-esteem by taking responsibility for another person's negative behavior.
Yes.
And at the same time, it gives you an opportunity to look within and see whether or not you are exhibiting similar behaviors.
Correct. So you have to be very clear in your discernment about exactly to what degree the reflection is germane and relevant for you, and to what degree it isn't.
Let's see. Do physically incarnated beings have free will and creative power, or is that just an illusion?
Of course, you have free will. Now, you have made a free will choice also from another level, a spirit level, about exactly what kind of theme you will be exploring. And the theme is generally the person that you are. The challenges that come up are representative of the theme that the personality you've created yourself to be needs to explore. So that theme can seem like destiny because you can't necessarily change that until you finish that theme, but you have free will within that destiny, within that theme. As we have often used the analogy of a hallway, saying that from a spirit level, a higher level, you have chosen a particular hallway that you will walk down. That's your theme. That's your path. That's who you are. Being who you are in this life experience is the theme, is the destiny. But how you are who you are is up to your free will. Again, going back to the hallway analogy, you will walk down the hallway. That's your destiny. You made that choice from the free will of a higher level. But within the hallway, you are completely free to decide how you will walk down the hall. You can walk, you can run, you can fly, you can crawl, you can be happy, you can be sad, you can look in every doorway along the way, you can ignore them all, you can go upside down, backwards, inside out, whatever way you wish to do it. That's your free will exploring the theme you set up for yourself. So your physical life is a combination of a so-called theme or destiny and free will in terms of how you explore it.
And so I know I have a question about this. So when we experience going down our hallway, and you've brought up the idea of surrendering to your flow, what
Yes.
exactly are you describing that we're surrendering to?
You are surrendering to the vibrational state of the theme itself. In other words, you're in total acceptance of who you are as the theme.
So when you make the choice to surrender to the way your life is unfolding and to
Yes.
trust that it's unfolding in a beneficial way to you, even if it's not exactly what you prefer.
Yes. So this is where the free will and the destiny merge. In other words, you are presented with certain things in that hallway, because that's the definition of that hallway. That's the definition of the challenges that expose the theme, reveal the theme. But the idea is that you still get to decide how you will engage with that. So the surrendering to it and the acceptance of your true self is the idea of engaging with the theme in a positive and constructive way. Again, this is the fourth part of the formula. Choose to remain in a positive state because you understand that no matter what happens, even if you recognize it neutrally as something you don't prefer, still it's got to be there for a reason. It's got to be part of the exploration of your theme. And if you engage that exploration of something you don't prefer from a positive point of view, from a positive state of being, you'll be able to go with a flow of using it and getting a benefit from it in a way that will serve you, because you know it's got to be there for a reason that could serve you, if only you will stay in the positive state that will allow you to experience how it could be used to a positive effect in your life. Because again, remember, it comes down to not mattering really what it is that happens, but mattering what you do with what happens. So staying in a positive state will allow you to get a benefit out of what happens, even if you don't prefer it. Whereas going into a negative state will only allow you to feel blocked by what happened instead of being more capable of using it to your advantage. Because remember, even on the simplest level, experiencing something you don't prefer, if you stay in a positive state, will allow you to recognize, if nothing else, that you've been given an opportunity to see what you don't prefer so that you can understand what you do prefer more clearly by contrast. And that's a positive way to use what you don't prefer. And when you use it up, when you learn the lesson of why it's there from a positive point of view, most likely it will fade away because it has now served its purpose and you can continue to move forward. Whereas if you give it a negative meaning, this doesn't belong in my life, this is not what I wanted, something is wrong, then all you're doing is creating a vibration that sticks you firmly right there in that position in the hallway until you get the point of why it happened to begin with and what you can learn from it and how it can benefit you by being there.
So even if you experience some form of loss, if you have the basic understanding that everything happens for a positive reason, and you allow
Everything
your
can be used
used in a
in a
positive
positive
way.
way. I just said it's there for a reason.
Right.
It's up to you to determine what that reason is.
And then that allows you to stay in touch with your own flow and
Yes.
see how that can be a beneficial experience, even if you didn't enjoy having it initially.
Well,
And
again, it's not about not enjoying it. It's about recognizing that it can be used to your benefit. And if you recognize that more quickly and more quickly and more quickly, then you simply come from a neutral, balanced state, and you can actually then start to enjoy anything that happens, even if it's what you don't prefer, because you will know you can use it in a way that you would enjoy to.
And it really can show you that something better can happen. Like it will
Yes.
bring up things like that. Like,
Yes.
oh, well, this was going to be the best thing that, and actually, by trusting that if negative synchronicity is serving you,
Yes.
by not allowing you to have a certain experience that you thought you wanted,
Correct.
then
It's guiding you through the idea of not only giving you opportunities you can act on, but guiding you by preventing you from being able to act on certain things that is simply not your path right now.
and then your trust in the unfoldment of your life and how your flow goes
Yes.
will make all the difference in the world as you're
Yes.
experiencing these lessons, so to
And
speak.
as you become used to this and it becomes your first nature, then it even goes beyond the idea of trust. You simply understand and know how things work. Then it's not a matter even of having to have trust in it. You simply understand that that's the way it works.
Okay, and then let's see if there's one last one to ask.
Yes.
You often say that don't invalidate what you don't prefer.
Yes, because that sticks you to it.
So when you
In other
say,
words, you're giving it energy, you're feeding it by invalidating it, because invalidation is a negative energy, and therefore it compounds the negative energy of what you don't prefer.
so when you say the word invalidate, can you express what invalidation is? Like,
Well, in a sense, it's what we just talked about. It's sort of another way of saying, this does not belong here. This has no value to me. So invalidation is discounting the value, discounting what's happening in your life as if it didn't belong. And therefore, all you're doing is reinforcing your inability to use it in a way that positively serves you.
so, and I guess
It's like
lastly,
saying, it's like saying, I see a series of stepping stones ahead of me, but one of them is a color I don't like. I don't prefer it. So I'm going to invalidate it. I'm going to say that stone has absolutely no value whatsoever. It does not belong on the path. So get rid of it. Now you have no way to step from that stone to the next one. You have literally caused yourself to invalidate your path, to remove the ability to step forward by discounting the reason that that stone, that different stone, is there, instead of using it to your advantage, saying, well, that stone is different because there must be something different I need to look at here. There must be something different I need to learn here that would actually help me then go on to the next stone. But if I invalidate it and remove it from the path, then there's too big of a gap for me to cross. There's no stone for me to step from to the next stone beyond.
and so coming back to the monologue in the beginning, essentially what you're explaining to us is how to stay in the moment
Yes.
and appreciate whatever is being generated in that moment,
Yes.
and how to be in the state where you're not invalidating what is happening.
Yes, because then you cannot use it to move forward if you invalidate it. If you say it's worthless, it has no value, it doesn't belong here, how can you use it to keep moving? You can't.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You
We
are also
really,
welcome.
yeah, we really appreciate all your sharing, all the information that you give us, and giving us this boost to be able to shift to a new paradigm where we can experience physical reality in a much more positive way.
Yes, well, it is our passion and our pleasure to do so. And of course, the choice is completely up to you. So we thank you for that, our unconditional love to you all. And as another expression of our unconditional love and support, please now allow yourselves, if you wish, to enjoy the following meditation. And now, let's continue the journey with your meditation. Deliver the monologue for the transmission that we have called A Step Along the Way. This is for the purpose of allowing you more efficacy, more ability to stay in the moment along your path, on your journey, and allow you to have a clearer understanding of how your higher mind, your passion, and synchronicity work together to allow you to take the steps necessary for you to navigate through the different parallel versions of Earth that are more and more reflective of the version that you prefer to experience, or the versions, more precisely, that you prefer to continue to experience as you shift moment to moment to moment. The primary point of this particular transmission and title is really about learning to relax into the moment, of letting go of any insistence on the concept of a goal that you're attempting to achieve, a place you're attempting to get to, some destination out in the so-called future. Not that you will not experience the idea of outcomes and goals and destinations, but these things are experienced along the way. In other words, please remember this. Your journey, no matter how you experience it, whether in physical reality, whether in non-physical reality, your journey never ends. There is no ultimate place you are attempting to get to. If you understand that everything that's important is happening right now, nothing more important will ever happen, as you say, in the future. It will just be a different thing, equally important to whatever's going on right now. You can begin to relax into the now, into the moment, understanding that as your passions are presented to you, in terms of whatever form they come in, by synchronicity, that these experiences, the willingness to act on the things that contain more passion, more excitement, more curiosity, more attractiveness, are simply in the moment, there in that form to get you to take an action that represents the step you need to take at that moment. As we have said before, just because your excitement presents itself in a certain way, in a certain format, doesn't mean that that format always has to come to fruition. Sometimes it might, but many times it might not. At least not in the sense that that will be the next thing that manifests. Again, it may, but it may not. So the idea is to start really looking, start really connecting to the things that present themselves to you as opportunities to act on that are representative of your passion, looking at them only as a step along the way on your journey. Nothing in that sense is the ultimate goal. The only thing that is truly, if you want to call it a goal, the ultimate goal, is being yourself. And it is the synchronicity and the passion and the higher mind that allows you at every moment to be yourself by giving those things to act on that represent your true vibration, the fullness of your being. As you step from stepping stone to stepping stone on the journey, on the path that you are, it's very important to really pay attention to what is happening right here and right now in every single one of those moments, in every single one of those stepping stones, and really savor it for what it is right here, right now, as simply a step along the way. No matter how exciting it may be, Never assume, never insist that that particular presentation, that particular experience has to be an ultimate thing, has to unfold in a certain way. It is nothing more than a step on the journey of you being yourself, which is really the entire point of the experience. Yes, they're presented to you in certain ways that are reflective of the personality you have created yourself to be, of the way in which you designed, so to speak, your theme to be this person, this personality, this reflection, this aspect of all that is. Yes, of course it is. And that can make it seem as if this personality must achieve this thing in this particular way by this kind of time, or that something has gone wrong. But this exercise, this idea, and the meditation that will follow in this transmission this day is all about really relaxing off of that idea and really just allowing it to flow through you in the moment, no matter how it comes to you, no matter how exciting, how passionate you may be about something, not to lose the passion, but not to rigidize it, not to structurize it in a way that insists that it must unfold in a certain way, because you really don't know, you really do not know exactly why it came to you in the way that it did. And this is why we are explaining to you that no matter how it appears, no matter how much energy might seem to be behind it, no matter how much synchronicity there may appear to be, it is simply a step along the way on your journey of being yourself, which is really the only goal. Everything else is an expression of that goal, but are not the goals themselves. The idea of coming to fruition in anything that excites you is all well and good, and many times it will happen. But even coming to fruition in a particular way that the passion may have presented itself to you is not the ultimate goal. It is just another step along the way, another part of the overall experience of your unending journey of being yourself, of discovering yourself from a new point of view, of just existing in the moment, savoring the moment, experiencing the moment, being you as fully as you can in every moment with everything that's presented to you, no matter how it looks. Whether you prefer it or not, it's there for a reason. Use the moment. Use it up fully. Dive into it. Stay with it. Don't ignore it. Don't attempt to get beyond it. Don't rush forward trying to get somewhere else. This moment, whatever is happening in it, is the key to really experiencing the fullness of your journey, so that you are really validating and savoring every single stepping stone, every single one. For if you're not using it fully, then it's not there to support you to get to the next stepping stone. You create gaps that you cannot get past if you don't really fully appreciate what's going on at this particular moment on your journey of being you. It's very important for you to focus on the idea of being you. You may not always know what that means, but you will find out. You will discover it if you just relax into the understanding that everything that comes to you is simply just another step along the way. It's not an ultimate goal that needs to be achieved. It's not a place you have to hurry to get to. There is no clock. You're not running out of time for anything that's relevant in your life. If you stay in the moment and just experience everything that comes as another step along the journey of being you, then everything will unfold in perfect timing, and you can feel yourself going with the flow of your truth, sailing along smoothly as you go from step to step to step, knowing that everything, every step, is just another step along the way of the journey of being who you truly are. So begin to breathe and relax into this idea that there's nothing more important than the now moment, because it is the now moment and in the now moment that you will discover by your interactions with what's happening at that moment who you truly are. And that's the most important thing you can do, to really allow yourself to move through your journey, to be your journey, and know yourself more deeply, more fully, more truly, and feel the fulfillment of the reflection of all that is and all the potential within you that will unfold, yes, over time, because that's the focus you have. But you will feel the fulfillment as you go, that every single moment has been savored to its maximum, so that you know you have left nothing out, left nothing behind, ignored nothing, that you've paid attention to everything that's there, and truly absorbed everything that has been brought to you at that moment. Because there is nothing irrelevant in this moment. There's nothing irrelevant in this moment. And there's nothing irrelevant in this moment. Every single thing is the orchestration you have agreed to participate in. When we take you through the meditation, we will continue the idea of how to breathe in a more relaxed way into every moment, so that you truly begin to experience your passion, things you do prefer, things you don't prefer, interactions with others, reflections that you may get through synchronicity, everything that comes your way, messages from the higher mind, messages from spirit guides. Whatever it is that's happening, you'll be able to experience it simply more and more and more as another beautiful, orchestrated step along the way of the journey that you are. At this time, then, in gratitude and deep appreciation, we are open to your dialogues and your questions, if you wish.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you very much for your passion, and to all your team. I'm very grateful to have this opportunity.
All right. Our deep appreciation to you as well.
Thank you. My question is on the balanced relationship between action and synchronicity. As example, I just left my job, but it took me longer than expected, and I was doubting because it happened by choice and not by synchronicity, as if I needed still a lesson to learn.
All right. First of all, it always happens by synchronicity, because everything happens by synchronicity. So there's nothing that doesn't happen by synchronicity. It's just that you're not clear about the fact that there are two kinds of synchronicity. The first kind, most of you are familiar with. That's the one you normally talk about. The synchronicity of something being brought to you that's an opportunity to act on. But the other kind of synchronicity is the kind of synchronicity that actually prevents you from acting on things that are not appropriate for you to act on at that particular moment. And that's why it's always synchronicity. Because synchronicity is not only, just to use a simplistic analogy, is not only the gas pedal saying go ahead, it's also the brake saying no, you can't go this way right now. You need to stay where you are, or you need to look for some other avenue that is now something you are able to do, because you're not able to do this right now. So the balance between the idea of the synchronicity that says take this action and the synchronicity that says do not act in this direction is your guiding principle in life. And that's why synchronicity is also an organizing principle, because it's really keeping you on the straight and narrow by saying yes, no, no, yes, no, no, yes, no. It's really allowing you to move through a particular path that is you, by not only allowing you to move forward, but also preventing you to move forward in certain ways that are not appropriate. Does this help?
Yes, but so also my thoughts and because I could have done it like months before, but I didn't.
Why?
But there was not.
Why didn't you?
Because I thought it wasn't the right moment.
then you are making your decisions, and you have to decide whether your decisions are being made for reasons that are in alignment with your truth or reasons that are out of alignment with your truth. And that's why it's so crucial to get in touch with your belief systems at any given moment, because it's always about the choices you make, but perhaps even more deeply, it's about why you make those choices. So you have to be in touch with your belief systems to understand the reason why you make the choices that you do. Nevertheless, the situation and the circumstance is still brought to you through some form of synchronicity.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
That's why, again, we reinforce and encourage the idea that part of the formula that we offer and encourage all of you to use is based on primarily you understanding what the beliefs are that you're holding on to as being true for you in every situation. So the synchronicity will always bring you a circumstance that is designed to reveal to you what you believe to be true, so you can decide whether or not you want to continue to hold on to that belief or let it go. That's the first thing the higher mind and synchronicity does in bringing you into the experience of a particular situation. Does it represent who you prefer to be? Are you willing to take the action that is representative of who you prefer to be? Or are you not willing to take that action, and why or why not? That's the key. Always you have to know the reason for the choices that you make, and then you will be clear and transparent within yourself about what it is you're choosing to do. Yes?
Okay. Yes.
All right.
And I have also about belief systems.
Yes.
When my self-esteem is particularly creative, I arrive to ask myself if it is my lack not being able to interact with a version of my spouse which is more conscious and less reactive in order to have a more harmonious relationship.
Well, again, the idea is for you to determine clearly within yourself what is and isn't representative of the vibrations in your life you prefer to interact with. So you have to, again, make those decisions about why you are experiencing what you're experiencing, not that it's a one-to-one reflection, but the idea of why you might be willing to continue on something that isn't vibrationally compatible with you. Because you are hoping that somebody else will change?
Yeah, no, I understand it. I think my struggle is that I feel
Your challenge. Your challenge. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't make it a struggle right from the get-go.
Yes.
It's just a challenge. It's something for you to know more about who you really are. So what is your challenge?
To divide my soul from my 3D experience.
Divide your soul?
Yeah, in the sense that I feel a deep, profound love for him.
Yes.
The physical experience,
yes,
is not harmonious. So I find it difficult to accept that I can't reflect this love in my physical experience.
All right, so you are being insistent on the conditions as a measure of whether or not you are who you prefer to be. That's insistence. And I told you that the third part of the formula is you can't assume or insist on anything. You can't put conditions on the idea of your passion. And if you truly love someone, you will then be honest with them in who you actually are in the relationship. And sometimes you have to really understand how important it is to show them the consequences of who you are. So sometimes a demonstration of your love may actually be leaving the relationship to show them that it's not the vibration you prefer. It's not the reflection you prefer. Then you're giving them an opportunity to decide for themselves whether or not they want to maintain that relationship and match your vibration, or whether they wish to continue their vibration and find whatever relationship actually works for them, while you go and find the relationship that works for you. That's the most loving thing to do. Love doesn't insist that the other person may change to give you the reflection you think you should be getting from them. That's insistence and placing conditions on them, and that's not love. Does that help?
Yes. Yeah.
So
yes.
watch what you're defining as love. Because if you really love someone, you will let them be who they truly prefer to be. You can always give them the choice, the opportunity to match your frequency in a way that you prefer. But remember, even if they do choose to match your frequency, it's not the same person anymore anyway. So what do you care that it doesn't really look like the same person? Don't go by surface appearance. If they decided to change and become more compatible with your vibration, it wouldn't be the same person anyway, no matter how you think they look on the surface. So don't insist that it has to be the same person that gives you the reflection in life that you prefer, because it never would be the same person no matter how they look anyhow. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
All right. Does that help you?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome.
Hello. Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
I'm great.
All right.
Okay. Did humans inherit archetypal symbology from both the Sasquatch and the Anunnaki when they were hybridized? Or
The archetypal level is a collective, unconscious level that involves every single being on your planet. It doesn't mean human or Sasquatch only. It means everything. Archetypal levels are a reflection of the entire collective unconscious of your entire planet.
okay.
So
okay,
everything is
so-
included in it.
Okay, so the injection of the Anunnaki genes did not have any effect on that. Is that right?
Of course it had an effect. It added a different archetype, but still it became part of the archetypal structure of the collective consciousness of your planet.
Okay, so what archetype was added?
Well, the connection to the concept of extraterrestrial consciousness.
Okay, and has it also evolved over time?
Of course it has, like everything.
Okay, so do we have any uh, symbolism for it in our culture or world right now? Like, how do we recognize that archetype?
There are many symbols for the idea of your recognition of extraterrestrial consciousness. Whichever symbol you're attracted to use is fine, because they're all belonging to the unconscious archetypal level of the collective. So some people will use the concept of the actual letters ET. Some will use the idea of a configuration of a flying saucer. Some will simply see it as the idea of the image of another planet. There are many ways to represent the archetypal symbol of extraterrestrial consciousness based on your particular affinity for a particular symbol that represents it.
Okay. And how do you interact with archetypes in your civilization? How do the archetypes help people in your civilization?
It again gives us a clearer understanding of what we are not only as individuals in relation to the archetype of the collective, but it gives us a clearer understanding and ability to interact with the collective as well, simultaneously. In other words, we see the idea of our existence multidimensionally at the same time.
Okay, so like, do they help you in your endeavors of, say, first contact or any other endeavors in your world? Like, do they take physical form, or do you communicate with them in a different way, like you communicate with your higher mind through your ships?
It's similar to that idea because, again, we represent and understand the idea of archetypes as being a part of our collective consciousness. And therefore, any individual who chooses to relate to the idea of the archetypal level in their own particular way will create their own symbology that's relevant for them to allow them to experience that relationship in the way that works for them. So many different kinds of symbols can be created. Sometimes it can even be that something will project itself to look like it's actually physically in our reality. It just depends on what works for the individual's relationship with that particular archetypal representation.
Okay, Bashar. Sure.
Sometimes the archetype will look like a geometric object. Sometimes the archetype might present itself in what you would recognize as an animal form. Sometimes it might represent itself as the form of a Sasani being. Sometimes it might represent itself as the form of energy of some sort. It just depends on the individual's relationship with that particular archetypal section, shall we say, of the collective unconscious, although we don't really have an unconscious. So for us, it's a little different.
Okay, Bashar. And then there used to be a empire named Sasanian Empire in the Middle East.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
named after our civilization.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Like, what's the connection with your civilization?
The
And
connection
like, it was
is that there was an entity on the earth at that time from our civilization who explained the name of our civilization was Sasani, but it was misunderstood as the name of the individual entity. This entity was considered to be some sort of a divine entity or a godlike entity, even though it was simply one of us. But being very much more advanced, it was taken to be some sort of supernatural entity. Over time, a being was born on your planet that was named after this particular entity. There was a connection energetically between them, and the parents of that particular individual that was born was named Sasan or Sasani. And then when that particular individual had a grandson, and the grandson created a particular physical, political empire on your planet, he decided to name the empire after his grandfather, who was named Sasan and Sasani. And therefore, that's how the idea of the Sasani Empire became named after our civilization, because it was named originally for the grandfather whose name was taken from the supernatural entity that everyone assumed was a godlike figure, but was only one of us.
Sure, Bashar, that's very illuminating. And can you also tell me the difference between inspiration and motivation? Like, what is inspiration in comparison to motivation?
Well, inspiration can be the idea of the unfolding of your imaginative connection to the higher mind to present you with the concepts that represent your passional path. But motivation is that which uses your belief systems to determine how willing you are to actually take action on that inspirational path or idea. That
Sure.
was your last question.
Sure, Bashar, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, it is so nice to meet you, through the
day.
internet. So
Good
honored to be
day.
here.
Good day. We thank you for the co-creation.
Yes, thank you so much, and I honor you for taking this time.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
Thank you. So my first question is, I do feel like I am one of the beings that have been put on this earth to assist in the paradigm shift that is occurring on the planet at this time.
One moment, let me stop you right there.
Mm-hmm.
The way you frame that disempowers you. You have decided to be here to participate. You were not put here.
Mm.
Do you understand?
Yes. Oh my God.
You decided to do this.
Yes.
Don't
Oh my
remove
gosh.
yourself from your own self-empowerment and the decisions you have made to be of service at this time.
Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry if I start to cry. It's just so true.
Oh, use nothing to apologize for whatsoever. You are releasing through your tears belief systems that no longer work for you. Remember that when you hold on to a belief or have a particular perspective or definition of something that may be out of alignment with you, it creates a constituent within your body that is chemically oriented. And when you let go of that belief, you have to wash the chemical constituent out of your body, which most often happens through the idea of tears. So tears very often are the releasing of the chemical component of beliefs that you're letting go of.
Okay, amazing. So yes, let me already rephrase that. I put myself on the earth at this time to assist with this amazing paradigm shift that is occurring on the earth at this
Yes.
time. And so I want to do this by way of like making videos and putting myself out there and allowing,
If
people
that
hear
is
my
your
truth.
expression of your passion, that is your expression of your passion. Then by all means, act on it, again, with no insistence or assumption of the outcome.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
Is there something holding you back from doing that?
There was in the past, actually. So funny you bring this up. My family, they were Jehovah Witnesses, and they were. And I actually have someone in the household that is still a Jehovah Witness. So if they were to witness any of this happening, I would get kicked out of the house. Yeah.
Well, is there something wrong with that?
Getting kicked out. Well, in my egoic mind, it's like, oh my gosh, that can't happen. Where am I going to go? You know, these kinds of things.
Well, I guess you'll find out. I'm not saying you have to share the idea with someone who you know is not vibrationally interested or compatible with your ideas. That's fine. But we would encourage you to pay attention to whether that is actually placing a limitation and a restriction on yourself for being able to do what you know you need to do as you. So don't take responsibility for someone else's reaction. I'm not saying you have to do things intentionally to hurt them. But the idea is that you're not responsible for their choice of reaction to something that is really your truth. And you're also, in some sense, then, shall we say, depriving them or preventing them from actually knowing who you are. So even though they may react in a negative way, you have to decide whether it's appropriate or not to actually be who you are in their presence. And if you find that you're not being who you are out of a fear-based idea, then you're not being who you are anyway.
Okay. Yes, definitely. Well, either way, yes, I do still want to share this. It's going to be out there for them to see. And if they see it, well,
Then they see it.
I'll just have to see. Yeah, I'll just have to see what happens. But
Yes.
my
But whatever
question-
it is that happens, you have to stay in your center to know what is your truth while still allowing them to have what they believe to be their truth. And you don't have to dive into or be engulfed by the idea of conflict, because you know that synchronicity will give you what you need and that you'll be just fine and that you can have compassion toward them, recognizing that they're going through their own process of understanding what is true and not true for them, even though they may be resistant to finding that out, even though they may not have been brought up to understand the tools that they need in order to do that. At least you're giving them the option to choose something else by letting them know there is another path, but they don't have to choose it. Nevertheless, at the same time, you at least get to be you.
Yes.
So put it out there, see what happens.
I will. I definitely will. I definitely feel like this is something I need to do. I have actually I haven't really lived my life for myself. It's really only recently
All
that
right.
I've
Do
discovered
remember this, very important. If you have a gift to give, there is someone waiting to receive it, or you wouldn't be excited about giving it because that would be pointless. So that means the longer you take, not blaming you, it's not a negative, just explaining to you the idea. The longer you take to give those gifts, the longer you make someone waiting to receive them wait. Do you understand?
Yes, let's not. I won't make them wait anymore. I'll definitely
All
get
right. All right.
But my question for that was actually like, how do I reach like people with my information? How can I go about helping them change their lives, like with these videos?
No. You go about sharing the information in whatever way you can, putting it out there in whatever way is correct for you. What they choose to do or not do with it is none of your business. Because you don't know how it will affect them. You don't know what they do and don't need to get from you. They will decide whether or not to change their lives. That's not your decision to make. All you can do is provide them the option to change their lives, the opportunity to change their lives in ways that might be more beneficial for them. You have absolutely no business assuming that they have to pay attention to you. You will reach the audience you need to reach. You will not reach the audience you don't need to reach. So why worry about it? Just be yourself and know for a fact that whether you ever know how you're doing it, someone is benefiting from what it is you gave. You may never know who is benefiting or how they're benefiting, but you will be giving them the option instead of depriving them of the option, and just keep doing what you do, knowing that you're benefiting someone. That's all you need to know. Whatever someone does with it is not your business.
I understand. Yes.
All right.
So much yes to that. So much shadow work I probably need to do with this too.
And that's fine, because that's the point also of your journey, is to know yourself. to really dig down and find out what belief systems don't work for you. Remember, there's no absolute right or wrong way. You're an infinite, eternal being. There's no hurry. Just do what it is that seems correct for you at the moment. Learn from whatever happens from the result of those actions or choices, and then decide again whether you want to continue in the same direction or whether you want to change your belief about something. It's up to you. This is the greatest power you all have, the freedom to choose. There's no contradiction coming from creation itself. The idea is that you are given that free will to make a choice so that you can be the unique individual that you really actually are as a reflection of the infinite of all that is.
Yes, I feel like that's been a really big lesson in my life, to be honest. Thank you so much for your time.
You are welcome. Good day.
Likewise.
Good day, Bashar.
Good day. Good day.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
What connections do I have, and is there any historical counterparts, past, present, and if possible to say future?
Yes, but that's true for most of you. Remember, this is a dynamically changing thing. It's not static. It's like plugging into an internet and unplugging from it and plugging into something else on the internet and then unplugging from it as you need to make those connections based on how you believe they guide you through life in terms of the kind of experience and information that you download from those connections. Whether you call them past, present, future, whether you call them extraterrestrial connections, extra-dimensional connections, guide connections, all that is, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're plugging into that serves you at the moment is constantly dynamically changing.
Yeah, and for the connections that they are relatively similar to everybody, like Sirius and Pleiades.
There may be some differences for certain individuals, but the general ones that most of you on Earth at this time connect to are Sirius, Pleiades, Orion, Arcturus, hybrid civilizations, such as my own or some of the other hybrids, the Greys, and also, historically, many of you connect to the idea, especially in what you call your United States area or North American continent, or South American or Central American continent, to the concept of Atlantean connections, some in the Asian continent to Lemurian connections. These are very common for most of you at this time. Yes, there are others that can be included in that formula, in that equation, in that mix, and that then will depend upon the specific individuals, the specific themes, the specific connections beyond the general ones that are germane and relevant for them in this particular life path.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
What is the link between you, Ra, Thoth, Abraham, and myself?
We're not exactly sure how to answer that. It's an extremely generalized question, and to some degree is an offshoot of what we just explained. You make your links according to the vibrations that you need, and you set up those links between different entities for yourself as you need to create them. So whether or not I myself need to have a link to Ra per se in my own journey of life doesn't really make a difference if you need me to have a link between myself and Ra for your journey in life, because we're interacting with your entire collective consciousness, all the archetypal levels that represent your world and your collective consciousness and collective unconsciousness. And therefore we know that whatever it is we represent to you, for whatever reasons you are creating a connection with us, will also entail the possibility of very specifically designed or customized links that you will make as you need to experience what you create us to be in your reality.
Thank you. That's very clear.
All right.
Will I come to SSN?
Well, you have been there in spirit. Will you come physically? That I cannot answer at this time because you're not finished being the person that you would need to be in order for that to occur. I'll just say that there might be a probability, but I can't give you a percentage.
Thank you. Could I have a quick geographical country's timeline of my Earth's lineage since Anunnaki alteration, and how's my father doing in spirit?
Your father is doing fine. There's no such thing as an actual genetic timeline per se, because again, remember that as you change, you're a different person with a different history.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah. What is my friend Clement doing in spirit right now?
There seems to be some kind of a study or a teaching taking place of how spirit interacts or becomes physical matter. Because one of the things that's important in what you call the future of the evolution of the Earth is for guides to be able to interact more concretely, more seemingly physically with physical beings and vice versa. So there is kind of a tutelage or a class or a lesson going on that allows those in spirit to understand exactly how to alter their vibration to be more perceivable by those in physical reality, but at the same time interacting through dreams with those in physical reality to help them understand how to alter their frequency to be a little bit more spirit-like so that you can meet in the middle.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm really grateful for your civilization existence, and my statement is that I feel a world I am going to be able to live in, which I already am, that is beyond my wildest dreams in service to others.
All right, well, thank you very much. Our deep appreciation to you as well for the co-creation and willingness to be yourself.
Thank you, Bashar.
You are welcome.
Good day.
Good day.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I have a set of questions around the nature of dreaming.
Yes.
You've discussed before, that we are actually spirit dreaming, and that your reality, the way you experience reality, is being awake kind of within the dream.
Yes.
What does it mean to actually wake up from the dream? What is true reality?
To die, to go into spirit fully, not experience the idea directly of what you call physical reality.
Okay, so where's the line where the dream starts and the true reality begins? It's really just the physicality?
It's just the frequency that you're operating at. 333 cycles per second, 333,000 cycles per second is the vibrational borderline between non-physical and physical reality. So when you simply alter a pattern of energy within your consciousness in a certain way from spirit, then you direct a portion or a focus of your consciousness in a way that experiences a dream called physical reality. So you have to go in that particular portion of your consciousness lower than 333,000 cycles per second.
So there's no such thing as still being in the dream as a non-physical?
Well, yes, in a sense, because every level within all that is another type of dream. But we simply assume you were referring to the physical version.
No, I want to know, is there an actual waking up completely at some level of the all that is, or would that be going back into the one, which you said you can't really do?
Correct. So in a sense, it's always the one or the portion of the one that is capable of being aware of itself, and therefore it is always, in a sense, a type of a dream, but that's what reality is.
Okay.
Because it's all just happening within the idea of consciousness, of self-awareness.
I see. So maybe the dream itself is the idea that there's another, because that's
Correct.
not true.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So yes, the dream is the one's idea that there is another. That's what creates self-awareness, is that the self is defined by the fact that there's something that appears to be other than self.
Okay.
That is the dream, because there is nothing other than self. But you can have the dream experience that there is.
Okay. And so the process of awakening, within that, there's always going to be the positive and the negative.
And
correct?
the center point.
And the center point.
And remember that the center point, being a point of balance, in a sense, tips the scale slightly toward the positive. Because in a point of balance, you still have the freedom to choose what you prefer, and that's a positive state of being.
Right. So is there always going to be consciousness inhabiting all of those frames, all of those options?
Well, it's existence itself, yes. So it can't cease to exist. Consciousness is simply the expression of existence being self-aware. Existence can't stop existing. That's its natural quality, is to be. And it can't go anywhere because there's nowhere for it to go, because by definition, non-existence doesn't exist. That's its quality, to not be. So that which is cannot become that which is not.
So like just at a practical, in an example, let's say that I am a version of myself that is like fighting with my father.
Yes.
And then I make a choice to mend things and make a more positive choice.
Yes.
Or mending things with my father.
Yes.
Let's say there's another version of me that continues to fight with my father.
Yes, in a sense, but that's not where you're focused anymore. In terms
Okay.
of the journey that your particular reflection is experiencing. You've chosen a different set of frames in the film strip, even though the
Right.
other film strip still exists.
And there's a consciousness inhabiting. There will always be some.
There will always be consciousness in everything because everything is consciousness.
I see.
Everything is made of consciousness.
So it's always going to be beneficial to all that is to have some consciousness in that negative experience. Quote
It is what it is. In that sense, it can't be anything else. It is what it is, and everything that it is what it needs to be. Because that's what it is. Otherwise, it would be something different.
Okay.
So needs all of it in order to be what it is. Just like you need all the puzzle pieces in order to form the whole picture. Without one piece, there's no whole picture.
And so let's say, so then I make that choice to go into these other set of frames that are
Yes.
more positive.
Which you are doing constantly anyway.
Right. So what happens to the consciousness that was just inhabiting that frame? Like, do I kick another consciousness out?
No. You have to sort of look at this from a multidimensional perspective. A shift of focus of a level of consciousness is happening on a certain level. The idea of the consciousness having the experience is on a different level. So you can, from a higher level of consciousness, shift your focus, but that doesn't change the fact that, by definition, a certain, let's just say, lower level of consciousness is simply constantly in that frame. You don't destroy the frame just because you've shifted your attention to another frame. Whatever's going on in that frame, whatever that frame represents, is still that frame and always will be. And that's a different level of experience and consciousness than the level that you're shifting your focus from. So just because you have looked at one frame and sort of contemplated what's going on in that frame, and then shifted your focus to another frame, you're shifting from a different level than what that frame represents as its own symbol of an experience. That never changes. It's made of consciousness, but that never changes what it is, because that's what it is that symbol, that expression of consciousness. But you, from another level, have the ability to take your focus off that frame and shift it to another frame. And shifting your attention to another frame changes nothing about the frame you were focused on before. It is what it is, as another level or expression of consciousness. But you have a level of consciousness that experiences the idea of flexibility, of shift, of change. That's a different level of consciousness you're coming from than the level of consciousness that is used to create the frame.
And so from that perspective, I know that reincarnation doesn't exist in that way, But
Yes.
why wouldn't my consciousness then focus as another person?
Because when you're experiencing things from a certain framework of time, you need that sense of continuity to create the story of a before, a middle, and an after. That's just the way you perceive things from that level of experience.
I see. But eventually, like, I'm not perpetually forever experiencing myself as this identity. Eventually I'll move on, right?
Again, you create the idea of moving on, yes.
I don't want to be stuck forever as this person. All right.
You're not stuck anywhere at any time for any reason whatsoever. I would not necessarily encourage you to label the idea as being stuck. Otherwise, that's how you'll experience it.
Okay. Well, yeah, because billions of times per second, I'm literally...
Exactly. You're always changing. The very idea of the experience that you call change happens because you're constantly shifting your focus. Otherwise, you wouldn't experience any change at all.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Good day.
Sure.
Hi there.
Good day.
So nice to speak with you today, Bashar. What are kachinas?
Kachinas are an expression of an interdimensional type or expression of consciousness that, from our perspective, you could say inhabits the borders between different dimensions, which is its own dimension. But they are the in-betweeners.
Okay.
They are a different type of consciousness. The American Indians dealt with them primarily in a variety of ways. They are representative of understanding the structure of your reality as it interfaces with other realities. Since they are the in-between expression of consciousness, they are the interface between one reality and another. But that is its own reality.
I see. Because in January, you had recommended also working with them. They were
Yes.
coming around, and I had been getting curious, and I was like, looking them up. And so, and you were asking me if I was going into a nature space soon, and I am, where I do tend to get Native American spirits, and I get like initiations and transmissions from them.
Yes.
So,
Now, they are also a very specific part of the collective archetypal consciousness of your entire planet as well.
I see.
And they can represent a link or a bridge between the physical and the higher mind in a very particular way. But they represent something bigger than that too.
Okay. And any suggestions on permission slips on how to work with them, or should I just go into meditation and see what happens?
Remember that whatever you're attracted to use, you're attracted to because it will work for you. That's what the attraction means. So find the permission slips that you're attracted to use, and that's all you need to do. And when it stops being attractive, use something else.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does. Thank you so much, Bashar.
You are so welcome.
Yeah, so much love and gratitude to you and your people. Thank you.
Our unconditional love to all of you as well. Good day.
Good day.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day. Yes.
So, you once said, when you learn to do more with less, you can do less and get more. I was wondering if you can expand on that.
Well, isn't it obvious?
Yeah, but just, you don't have to.
Well, in other words, asking us to expand on it is not doing less and getting more. Because you're asking for more instead of less.
Oh, okay. Yes.
The idea really, again, is becoming more efficient, in a sense, allowing things to flow through you in a more efficient way so that the actions you take feel less and less and less like you're actually expending any effort at all. That's what we're saying. You feel like you are doing less, but you see the reflection of more happening because you're doing it more efficiently, more in alignment with the superconductive nature of the energy that's flowing through you. Whereas if you feel like you're doing more, then there may be resistance there that is beyond the natural way in which you need to express yourself, because you're doing more but getting less because you're not being efficient with the energy. So it's not that you actually are really doing less physiologically, but you're doing it in a way, although you might be, but you're doing it in a way that feels like you're not really doing anything, and yet you are doing more because you're using the energy more efficiently. You're being more aware of the greater reflection that even the tiniest change will make in the experience of your life. That's what we mean by doing less and getting more, is you're becoming more of yourself, which reveals more of yourself. But the way you become more of yourself is not by struggling, is not by resisting. In a sense, it's by surrendering to who you truly are. And that, in a sense, translates as doing less. It doesn't mean you actually just sit and do nothing.
Yes. Good day.
Hello Bashar, it's Timo from Finland on the Arctic Circle. I have experienced hundreds of times sleep paralysis, flying dreams, and also I have been many times conscious of out-of-body experience. So I would like to know, what does that mean? And have you got reading how many times I have been experienced those? And I have 2 days from this live stream, I have my birthday, so if you and your civilization can send me happy birthday, I would love that. Thank you.
Happy birthday. We'll do that first. The idea of what you call sleep paralysis can happen for a number of different reasons, based on not only what you mentioned in terms of out-of-body projection, because if you're shifting yourself to another dimensional realm, your body can no longer move in the same way that you're used to moving it, and so that can be experienced as a kind of freezing or immobilization of the physical form, while the idea of the energy component, the consciousness component, goes on or expands beyond the idea of its physical experience. However, it also can be something that happens when you are shifted by encounters with different extraterrestrial beings into a slightly altered reality in order to experience certain encounters, because again, it's similar to the idea of shifting your vibration from what you typically refer to as physical reality to perhaps another variation of it. And so, therefore, in being shifted, you are also being immobilized to make sure that you're shifted to the reality that is preferred, so you don't go shooting off into the cosmos. And also because, again, the immobilization may be necessary or simply a side effect or a result of the fact that you think you're trying to move in the same reality, but because you're not in the same reality, you have to learn to move differently, and therefore feel that effect of not being able to move in your typical reality as a paralysis. The flying can be representative of the fact that you know you are now moving through an astral realm or out of body, as you say. It can also be representative of some encounters with the idea of being on a spaceship. But again, it will depend on that particular moment. You'd have to take it on a moment-by-moment basis. In terms of the number of encounters that you've had, it appears that you've had at least 13 in your life that are responsible for that experience for that reason. In terms of the idea of out-of-body projections, it seems that you may have had well over 50, at least as far as we can read your energy. You may not remember them all because it may not be necessary to remember them all, but nevertheless, this is what we're picking up from your frequency at this particular moment. So again, happy birthday.
Hi, Bashar. This is Riho from Estonia. I have a question about energy readings. How is it possible that you sense someone's energy who you barely know and channel completely detailed information about their personal life? Please describe this process and
We don't have to know them on a personal level to be able to read the language of the energy that we perceive when the interaction takes place. There are literally patterns of energy that we perceive that you're made out of. And sort of similar to the idea of someone who's sensitive to reading like tarot cards or something else, certain patterns stand out in terms of their color, their shape, whether they're in the beginning or the front or the back, in certain ways that actually is representative of an energy language. And it's the energy language of the personality that we're actually perceiving and responding to. So the different symbols that we see, that we perceive in that exchange tells us what we need to know and what we need to say. We're responding to energy patterns of your consciousness. And therefore it's representative of different aspects of your personality, different aspects of your journey, different aspects of your experiences are all translated into symbols in that energy language, and that's what we're reading.
How can we train this for ourselves, and do we experience it already actually? Thank you, all my love to Aveyo. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
By following the formula, because again, remember, as you act on your passion, the very first step of the formula is designed to raise your frequency, because that's what happens when you act on your passion. And when you raise your frequency, you become a more sensitive receiver to higher frequency dimensional information. And therefore you start perceiving things, and your senses start being more capable of perceiving things on a higher frequency level, which sometimes translates as energy forms, or whatever way it works for you, whatever symbols work for you. But that's the first step, is you have to raise your frequency, which is why we encourage all of you to act on your passion, because that's what automatically happens when you do. So the more you get used to doing that, the more you will start having more sensitive senses to these kinds of energies, and the more you will start learning how to read those other levels of information.
Good day, Bashar. You have shared that the effects of 5G could be negated by using the harmonics of the Schumann resonance. Yet you also share that depending on what beliefs you have, we can also override negative effects. My question is there an amount of power needed behind those beliefs to override the negative effects? And second question is, how does power relate to placebo? Thank you.
It's almost identical. The idea is the amount of power necessary is directly proportional to the depth of the belief, the strength of the knowing. Many people on your planet, at this point in their evolution, at this point in their process, may wish to believe that they can override things with their beliefs that are physical, but most of them actually don't really believe they can. And that's why we often say, here's a physical alternative that makes more sense to your physical mind, that would actually represent a path of least resistance to you at this moment in your belief structure. Because even though you may be on your way to being able to negate certain ideas just with a belief, most of you don't actually believe you can do that. And therefore, what you do believe in terms of the physical effects that you're used to, that you're familiar with, can be used to your advantage by simply treating them as an equal alternative instead of thinking that there's something less. The placebo effect proves this point by understanding that as long as you believe that something physical is actually occurring, then it's all right for that to happen. And even though you're only using your belief in it to make it happen, it's a belief that you're using something physical to do so. And that's the paradox. And that's why we say sometimes the idea of a physical pattern or a physical approach can be equally as powerful as the idea that you can negate something or change something with just a belief. So the placebo effect is the perfect balance demonstration between those two ideas, because you are just using your belief to change something, but it's because you're using a belief in the effect of something you've been told is happening physically.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Chris from Nevada City, California, and my question for you today is, I've heard you say before that the theme of exploration for Earth is the transformation of darkness to light. That makes me wonder, what are some of the other themes of exploration that are possible on other worlds? And also, what is the theme of exploration for the Essassani? Thank you.
Well, obviously, any theme that you already recognize can certainly have its opposite too. So some civilizations can be the theme of transforming lightness into dark. That's one obvious theme that is simply the opposite of what we have said about Earth at this time. The idea of the overall theme for the Sassani people is one of seeding or spreading the ideas that we are sharing with you specifically. So it's kind of an idea of helping evolution of different systems to expose the themes that they are experiencing to them more clearly, so they can make their decisions accordingly to the themes they have chosen more consciously. So we are, in that sense, the theme of transparency. Provide transparency, provide information, seed and plant ideas that will grow into the experience of more transparency, more clarity, more self-empowerment, more awareness. We are the bees that create the honey from the pollen of different flowers and bring you the honey as a gift.
Hello Bashar and hello Dylan. I am Cornelia from Lithuania. So I found interesting information about ancient Earth history. I would like to know your point of view about it before the Anu came to Earth, where was growing giant trees which were made of crystal type material like silica. They were as large as 10 kilometers or even larger. One of the examples is Devil Tower in USA, which now looks like giant tree trunk. So please, can you elaborate on that? It is true, if it is true.
It is not a giant tree trunk. There were no trees of that height on your planet. Devil's Tower is the solid core of an ancient volcano, the lava that has solidified and the rest of the volcano having been worn away by erosion. Many people that think that those things represent tree trunks are mistaken.
Hi Bashar, this is Tom from England. Can we experience our grander self or higher self before we die? Thank you. Ha'atu.
You can certainly become your best version of it in physical terms. Yes, the idea is to become a person that is a true balance of the physical and higher mind while you are still physical as best as you possibly can be. And that is what is meant by the higher frequency of physical reality that you call fourth density. You become a physical version, in a sense, as a physical personality of the higher mind as best as you can express it in physical terms. So yes, but being the higher mind when you leave physical reality is slightly different, because there are certain things that are relevant for the spirit world that are not necessarily relevant for the physical world, and vice versa. But you can become your version of that blending, of that balance, of that relationship, certainly while you are physical. Absolutely.
Hey Bashar, good day. I greet you in the love and light of one infinite creator. So my question for today is there a specific frequency that can help us manifest faster, like 528 Hz, which can we put earphone and listen while visualizing or manifesting our desire? Thank you. Have a good day.
440 would be more effective.
Hi Bashar, Ha'atu. This is Riho from Estonia. I have a question about sleeping. So, as we know, you don't sleep anymore. So I want to ask about how can we evolve towards sleeping less in the sense that why do we need sleep, and can you describe the steps how to evolve towards sleeping less in the sense that how to experience those things that we need to experience in the sleep state, in the awakened state, and also why do some people need so much sleep? Aveyo, thank you. Goodbye.
The basic idea of sleep is that you have to, again, remember that physical reality isn't real, but you're expending a lot of focus and a lot of energy pretending that it is. Therefore, you need to recharge now and then. You need to reconnect to your natural state in spirit now and then, which is what sleep is for, because you are attempting to maintain an illusion for a long period of time. And therefore, you are recharging, in a sense, your batteries when you sleep. It doesn't take very much, but each of you has your own natural biological cycle. And again, this comes down to following the formula, because when you follow the formula and act on your passion in the way we have described, you will find your natural biological cycle. You will be able to connect to energy more directly rather than having to get your conscious mind out of the way to do so. As you become more lucid in the physical dream, you will connect to energy more directly and not have to check out, as you say, as often. But this goes hand in hand with finding your natural biological cycle by acting on your passion and living your life according to your natural format, which will eventually train you into understanding, so to speak, how much sleep you still need and how much you don't. And when you get into the so-called pattern of finding more of a natural cycle, over time, you will probably sleep less and less. Now, different people sleep less or more for, again, a variety of different reasons. People may be processing certain things more easily when they sleep in their dream state than they believe they can do in their physical awake state. And so, again, it will depend upon the person and what you are going through as a process at that moment that may determine temporarily why you are sleeping more or less. So it's a combination of things. But the fundamental idea is that as long as you are generating a concept of the illusion of physical reality, you will need to recharge your batteries in order to continue to do so for any period of time. But following your passion, following the formula, will allow you to balance that timing out in a way that will allow you to sleep when you truly need to and be awake when you truly need to in a more natural way. And eventually, over time, maybe not even in your generation, but over time, you will evolve to the point where you're constantly dreaming and constantly awake and constantly lucid and connecting into the energy of spirit in the way that you need to, so that you don't actually have to go through the actual act of sleeping in the way that you do now anymore, because you will always be dreaming and always be awake.